What's cracking, everyone? VenomousStare back with the final game of Neeb versus SortOf. If you were waiting for this game, make sure you leave me a little like rating, and if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. It appears as though SortOf is going to go hatchery first on this forward base on Proxima. Now this is pretty damn standard if we're going to be honest, because Zerg wants to get their creep going out on the map as quickly as possible, and if they take this pocket base over here, they kind of have to waste the first couple tumors. Usually they would make them in the main and then have to bounce them down twice, but that's a pretty considerable waste. Neeb is going for a fast expo as well. Standard stuff here. One thing I've always noticed about Neeb's play that I really like is he has an extreme focus on always having at least 16 workers on minerals. Even whenever he's saturating his gases, he seems to prioritize always having at least 16 workers on these minerals, because usually he will saturate these gases out with rally points. Obviously he had 17 there, so there's no point to have it oversaturated, but look at this. This is what I was talking about. I feel like a lot of pro gamers, as soon as they take that gas, they shove 3 workers in there, and of course now he's on 2-2. He went out to make another building. But you get the point, you see. Notice that his rally point started right back to the minerals. Whenever I first started playing, I was always very curious about the adequate mineral saturation and how you should properly be making workers. As we see, SortOf is just starting out with a few lings and some queens, so standard stuff that we've seen a million times. I don't need to point out. You have the production tab. We will see what Neeb's tech choice is here. He almost always makes his tech out here on Proxima, from what I've seen of his games at least. Stargate, yeah. So in the previous games, Neeb would go for Stargate, not in all of them, but one of Neeb's favorite PvZ builds is this build where he goes Stargate, Oracle, and like 1 Phoenix, maybe 2, and then maybe 2 Oracles. But the point is he only makes about 3 units out of the Stargate before he techs into something else. This means that he has way more units, or significantly better units, whenever the inevitable Hydra baneling pressure comes from the Zerg. In Game 2 of this series, which you should check out if you haven't seen, of course. All of these series, by the way, like I have giant playlists on my channel for all the StarCraft 2 professional games. And since they're in chronological order, all you have to do is go to the playlist and do like a Control F and search for the series that you want. And then the videos will play in the correct order of the series. So Oracle is going to be the choice, of course, here for Neeb. Now it's interesting to note because back in the day, usually we saw 4 Phoenix, and then of course in Heart of the Swarm it was, well, maybe an Oracle, but they have queens, so maybe not. But then definitely the 4 Phoenix, because you can run up and run around, pick off queens, and gain map control by killing overlords with the Phoenix. And I think that Neeb has kind of said, well, since Zergs are going for Hydra, Bane, Ling timings, which pretty much shit all over extended Stargate builds, I'm going to open Stargate to maintain pressure and get map control, but in truth, I'm not going to commit a lot to the Stargate, and this Oracle has already taken hull damage without doing a single thing. So good damage by SortOf here. SortOf is from Sweden. He's one of Moro's friends. At DreamHack Austin, I asked SortOf, how is Moro doing? If you don't know Moro, he is one of the best streamers to have ever touched the game, and he won one of the first StarCraft 2 tournaments ever in a finals against Greg Hydra Fields. He used to play Zerg, switched to Terran, and then to Protoss, which was kind of like a weird phase. Anyway, SortOf is Moro's friend, and I talked to SortOf in real life and confirmed that Moro is doing well, and he's playing poker professionally. Now the reason I'm saying this is because Moro hasn't tweeted in months. He's been off the grid, so as one of Moro's longtime subscribers, I was kind of concerned. Special class represent, more duck. Queens are going to defend here as +1 gets researched. Now here comes the Goobies, they're gonna mow down the queen. Gooby Please, the nickname for the Oracle. Another Moro reference, and they're going to mow down the queen. The Adepts are going to pressure here. Remember, Adepts shred light units. Now the Phase Shades are already out, so they'll be tellied away here. And there it goes. So Neeb dealt a lot of damage. What did he lose? Nothing! Zero, zilch nada. He's pitching a perfect game. Neeblet up here at 85 supply. Remember when Neeb changed his ID for like a week to Neeblet, and poor In Control had to say Neeblet over and over and kept forgetting? I really don't like it when players change their IDs, especially whenever they've made a name for themselves, like Neeb. Neeb went out, he won Kespa Cup. He's done some damage at major tournaments. He's won DreamHack Austin. He's a hell of a player. +1's about halfway done for SortOf. I'm going to flip over to income here. You can see that Neeb, he has a worker lead against Zerg. Now what does that mean? It means it's ahead, guys. Protoss isn't supposed to have a worker lead. Usually the old cliche is that Zerg, I would say that, you know, Zerg is supposed to be a base up. That's generally the cliche that gets thrown around. Templar Archives +1 and Charge is on the way. Of course the Oracles are going to run in here and they should never die. A player of Neeb's caliber should never lose these units. There's no fungal growth from infestors to worry about. There's no Hydras. In other words, there's nothing that has high enough DPS or like a snaring ability that should catch him off guard. 4 drones have already gone down. More Zealots are being warped in. +1 is not quite done. That would have been a huge power spike to attack. And Banes are going to go off and do a lot of damage. So good damage, or good defense, excuse me, there by SortOf. As Neeb tried to harass with Zealots, and we see that Bane's actually against Protoss, that's pretty much the one instance where they're really, really good, is whenever they're used against Zealots like that. This Warp Prism is stuck between a rock and a hard place. There is quite a bit of air distance. He's lucky this isn't an old school map, like Jungle Basin or something. Delta Quadrant, I digress. A little bit of a move out here for Neeb. 2 sentries, a few Adepts, a few Immortals, or a few Archons, excuse me. Woo! Need to take a sip of water here and gather my thoughts, lads. Delicious. Hydra speed's halfway done. This base, I would say, is probably going to be gone, so 2 Queens get force fielded off away from their amazing little creep escape route, and this hatch is about halfway done. Here come the Lings. The Hydras could focus onto the Mother Core, and they do. The Mothership Core goes down, so does the base. A Power Mortal comes up here, but there are no armored units for it to butcher, and suddenly Neeb, it looks as though he was being pushed back, but it turns out there was a Zealot warping in the main. Now if these Zealots focus fire this Hydra, then it could go down. Ooh, but the Zealots bug out a little bit there, and they want to go for drones, it looks like. And it wasn't a bug, it was actually Neeb changing what he wanted to attack, but I think he could have gotten that Hydra in if he really focused. But regardless, Neeb is still incredibly far ahead. Notice that he has Oracles out here laying stasis wards. This is beautiful. Look at this absurd worker advantage for Neeb. The stasis wards are so good because not only are you going to slow down attacks like this, you force your opponent to have detection and you see attacks coming. So Neeb knows what's coming. Let's watch his vision. He's going to counter harass because he knows the Zerg army is out on the map. So the Zerg has to make a decision, either do the all-in push because he knows he's behind, or try to defend the harass. Now this is great from Neeb because he didn't lose this Warp Prism, he just brought it back so he can run in and backstab at any point. Again, the Stasis Wards show Neeb where the army is, when it's coming, and what he needs to prepare. Neeb has a solid little army here. 2 Immortals are being pumped out at a time. Nice forward pylon there so he can overcharge without the Hydras encroaching on his gates. The Immortals are out here, and does he have Storm? I don't think so. There's the production tab for you, lads. 4 Immortals are going to shoot the Hydras, but remember, Immortals really counter Roaches, not so much Hydras. The Hydras are spraying forward. A lot of Warpins are going to occur, and Speed Zealots, when they get on top of Hydras, do pretty damn well. But the problem is you can't have pure Speed Zealot because the Hydras can kind of backpedal and kite back. More Lings coming out here, and Neeb holds a 2-0 advantage in the best of 5. He still has a supply lead. SortOf has a long way to go to come back. There goes the gate. He's going to press forward here. 4 Immortals are out. That Archon is going to kite back. Speed Zealot is actually pretty damn useful for holding that. You would be surprised with +2. Notice that SortOf doesn't have any Carapace upgrades. He doesn't have any range upgrades. And the Warp Prism here is going to harass again. Beautiful stuff here, and the Spore got prevented from burrowing. So Neeb is doing exactly what you want to do. As soon as your Zerg opponent moves out on the map and he's on your side, backstab him with the Warp Prism. SortOf's going to try again. But the fact that he's been harassed so much and Neeb has developed such an economic lead means that, yeah, this push is kind of threatening, but until these reinforcements meet up, it's no real threat. +3's on the way for Neeb. And Banes are going to come in here onto Immortals. Now, Immortals are good against Banes, but be careful there, Neeb. Now, SortOf doesn't have +2, which is that key upgrade to one-shot a probe. And the Hydras are going to defend out here. Press forward under the Mothership core. Protoss is still warping in here. Neeb has lots of Immortals. He's double pumping those off of those 2 Robo Bays, which are right at his third. And he cleans up, and at the third base, drones are being ravaged by Zealots. So this is what I was talking about. The moment that SortOf committed with this whole army and moved across the map, Neeb just backstabbed him. Now, SortOf's attacks were being constantly delayed, and that's why it looked as though SortOf didn't really have as much army as it seemed like he should have. He was always having to defend drops. So as soon as he finally said, screw it, I have to attack now, he has such a big economy, Neeb really committed in and warped in a lot of Zealots. A disgusting worker lead here, and the Protoss American, Neeb, takes the series 3-0. Let's rewind a bit there and watch that final engagement. As we rewind, I'd like to remind you to like the video, possibly even favorite it if you enjoyed it. Subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss future StarCraft videos. So the Hydra Bane was pressing forward here, and let's flash to the Zerg's vision. SortOf is really saying, okay, I've been harassed a lot. Oh, there's shit, there's the Warp Prism again, it's dropping off Zealots. Okay, I have to grab my army that I desperately want to be attacking and try to defend. And this is an ongoing thing. And notice that Neeb just picked up and ran away. He didn't lose much at all, if anything. It's not like Neeb is having to warp in 9 Zealots and then he's just killing a few drones. No, he's just flying around with a handful of Zealots, dropping them off. Will he lose the Warp Prism there? No, he doesn't. Or wait, did he? Like, I had the SortOf vision on still. Let's go to the unit. Okay, so he lost the Warp Prism there, but crucially he dropped off the 3 Zealots. And then this engagement happened. So we already saw what happened up here. Let's just watch what the Zealots did. And this is the tricky thing. SortOf is just pressing forward with everything he has in a last-ditch effort to crack the Protoss. If he reallocates any units here, there's no way that he has enough to break Neeb. Remember, he's having to trek this whole map, and only about a quarter of it is creeped. So what happens? The crucial counterattack does severe damage. Protoss players that are having trouble with any sort of matchup, honestly, but specifically Hydra Bane, or ground styles that aren't Ling based. Now I know Hydra Ling Bane, but really it's mostly Hydras. The Warp Prism is very good because you can force your opponent to either have to double back or reallocate units. And the way that Zerg macro works is they make stuff, they hotkey all of their units with they hotkey their building eggs from the hatcheries into their army hotkey. So whenever they hit 1 to control their army, the units that they just built out of their larva are pretty much set into the hotkey. So that's significant because it means, yeah, the Zerg is efficiently able to rally their stuff forward quicker, but it means that whenever you do harass, they're likely to just have the units pulled out of the hatcheries, and because they're using their army hotkey to control their army, it's going to be harder for them to bring the units individually back to defend the drop harass, because as soon as they come out of the eggs, they're already hotkeyed onto 1. So the Zerg has to manually deselect them, and if he's trying to do a big counterattack like this, and there's a big army on the map, it can be very, very difficult, because all it takes is for him to sit here and have to mess with this harass for a few seconds, look away, and boom, the speedlots are on top of the Hydras off creep. If you enjoyed that, subscribe.